Hi everybody, and hi and happy Tuesday, or whatever the day or time it is where you're coming or viewing this from. I want to welcome you in this group, and if you're like a new member or old member, we are extremely grateful that you're here and that we have this opportunity to be presenting topics weekly and to be talking to you guys. So those of you who can join me live with this new time frame that we're having, because my daughter is attending her show, dance, jazz, something, and so we had to change the whole family structure schedule for that. And so we are, we were grateful that we could do that and thankful, and so that's why the times have changed, and it might be inconvenient for some people, but that's kind of like irrelevant, because thanks to Facebook we can do this. You can watch replay. I'm gonna tag you as always, and I always come back to see and review the comments. So that was a long intro. So hi everybody, this is Helena Papaj. I am the founder of this high-end state of mind group, and I'm also your mentor when it comes to high ticket, when it comes to group programs, when it comes to working one-on-one, creating your own signature process that goes for 4 or 5 figures. And I also help you to create 6-figure leaps within your business in a matter of as little as 90 days with the help of basically a live conversion event, let's call it like that, right? So whatever that is, that can be something of your preference, or that can be something, that we call a launch, right? So with that being said, and with everything that I've shared and everything that I've been hearing and had conversations, whether it was business-wise or with people that I am, that are in my environment, and the theme and the topic just kept resonating with me, because people are like, I am at the crossroads. I've been working in my field for many, many, many years. And so yes, drop me an emoji, hearts, whatever is in your, in your heart. Hey, Paulina, we had a wonderful conversation last night. She is amazing, and she is a true rock star. And so as many of us, sometimes we just kind of like have to mature before we actually go out in the world and proceed with what we're here for, basically, right? And so this is kind of like, people have been asking me a lot, I'm at a crossroads, I need to make some decisions. I so want to go and be this new vision and new person, and I want to see myself as if, and I want to be delivering from there, and I want to be making money from that point of view, and I want to have all these new clients, prospects, husbands, lovers, what have you, right? From that, standpoint, but, right? And then it comes but, I am in a system, or I'm in a school, or I am in a family, or I am in a state, or I am, under this, whatever the conditions are health-wise, or I am age, gender, sexuality, color, you name it, right? Or, this is just how it's been done in my company for decades. And so who am I to change that? Okay. So I want to deep dive into that and kind of help you open that mind, because sometimes even, with prospects on calls, when people come with this kind of a closed mindset, as we call it, right? They want to go for things. They have the ambition. They have the drive. They want to go. They want to conquer the world. They want to achieve amazing, beautiful things. And they want to use their genius, as a method of their work, right? So it's I'm all about that, right? And what it takes is opening that mindset, and it's opening that ability to envision, and it's opening that ability to invite, and it's opening up that ability to inspire yourself or the other person, whether it's your partner, whether it's your business partner, whether it's your lover, whether it's your parents sometimes even, right? And inspire them, like from the place of like where you see yourself, where you want to be. And that's also the place where you actually have to go and be bold and trust your vision and trust your future story and build that bridge with daily mindset work, journaling, storytelling to yourself, affirming the new version, whatever it takes, because there's plenty of tools. There's plenty of neurolinguistic tools. There's tools for reprogramming your mind. There's tools for, erasing whatever it's not working. Like there's massive amount of tools, right? But all you need to do is find that combination that works for you and stick to it for a little while, right? Because the mind, the belief, the attitude is going to change. And the moment it flips, it changes, you're going to be able to actually walk that new walk as this completely transformed new person, because that's the basic law of like any transformational work, right? And that's why we love transformational work. But it is sometimes time consuming, it is sometimes energy consuming, it is sometimes it gets like blurry and doubtful, and like where am I at? Like, did I make the right decision? Who do I think I am? What are people thinking about me? Like, and we're kind of like wanting this kind of like approval, or kind of like, to people to kind of like appreciate us before we can even like firmly believe in ourselves, in our work, in our method, just because you have worked on it for like 14 years, 20 years, right? You know what you're doing, you know what your expertise is. And even if it's like in a new setup, or if it has a new structure, or if it has a new way of delivering, or if your position is going to be, I don't know, with 50 new people working underneath you, that doesn't take away from your expertise. It only adds on new value, new like angles where you're gonna have to like manage that, right? And of course you're gonna have to like add that extra into the mix, right? That extra vision, that extra kind of like inspiration, that extra mindset twist and attitude, so that people can actually trust you and follow your lead, or that the clients can trust you, that you actually believe what you're saying, so that you actually believe and you can stand behind what it is that you're saying. Because the moment it's kind of like dualistic, and it's kind of like you believe it a little bit and then you doubt yourself, and then you believe it a little bit and then you doubt yourself. So it's kind of like, it's really kind of like the battle of the minds, right? And it's like there's not like, if there's no peace, if there's no like if nobody's kind of like shaking hands and your ego is kind of going like, hey, okay, like I'm gonna give you a chance with this, right? Like that's something that we need to fight for, and not for the limitations that the ego is trying to impress upon us every day, day in, day out. That's just what the ego, that's just what the subconscious mind does. That's what its job is. And so there's no hard feelings for that. But that's not who we are. That's not by far, like that's not at all. That's not even in the that's not even the most of like how and who we truly are and what we're made of, right? So giving that ego or subconscious mind too much of credit, or as if it's telling the truth, or believing it too much, that's where we sail into the story. And the story is always going to be like, in that sense, negative story, disempowering you, taking your power away. And unless you get really kind of like a little bit like in a good way angry, and kind of like produce a new story and put that aggression towards that, which is a good type of like aggression and ambition and energy and drive and focus, right? Nothing is going to change, right? Because the story is just going to keep repeating itself. That's the whole point of the story of the subconscious, of the ego, of like repetition, right? That mind that just loves and thrives on repetition. But it also means that it's going to produce the same old, and same old, day in and day out. So the moment we start figuring out, let's say if we're talking about money, like whatever got you to, let's say 5 figures per year, or whatever got you to 6 figures in your experience, it's not going to be the same experience that gets you to 7 figures. period, right? It's not going to be the same systems, it's not going to be the same team, it's not going to be the same support, it's not going to be the same number of coaches, support group, friends, sometimes even partners. It's not, right? So it's kind of like releasing and letting go, like, how it's supposed to look and what is, how it's supposed to come through, and thinking about how it's supposed to from what your previous experience, hey Tina, what your previous experience was is the same as in relationships. If you're not able to let go of what was, the good and the bad, and appreciate the good, right? And, like pack the bad, right? Like learn from it, sure, but move on as if you are making decisions from this new place, and this new place is your story, is a story where you're the winner, you just got an Oscar, and that's the story that you want to sell to yourself, to your mind. That's where you start reprogramming yourself. It's so real, reprogramming yourself, right? And just you can skip therapy in that sense, and you just enter into this new reality. It is as easy and as difficult as it sounds, right? Because it actually means letting go of the story, not feeding the story, not giving it even like a minute, right? Not giving it even like an ounce of the energy, and just be like grateful and be like, hey, bye-bye, right? Like I'm just gonna leap. I'm just gonna go forward. I'm just gonna be like skipping over those 10 steps, and I'm just gonna go focus on where is it that I wanna be? Who is it that I wanna be? What kind of decisions is this person in this new relationship, or this new business relationship, or this new coaching relationship, or this new business owner relationship? What kind of decisions is this person making? Does she have a team? Does she have a regular mani-pedi? Does she have a massage therapist? Does she have like a home? Right? Does she have 2 homes? Does she have one home, by the sea? Does she have one home, where, wherever your family is? Does she have, I don't know, like 3 lovers? Does she have like 1 husband? Does she have like 10 kids? Does she have just 1? Like what is that person, right? Like, how do you see that? How do you connect with that? Like, how do you believe in that? How fit, how healthy, how vital, how, amazingly inspiring that person is. Right? Because that's all the matter of like manifesting that as well. And we all know you are so good at manifesting whatever you put your mind to, right? We always get what we want. Always, always, always. And sometimes we focus on the negative, and that's what we keep getting, because it cannot be different than that. Like, it's kind of like it would be naive to expect, right, that you can be thinking negative thoughts about yourself and you would be meeting somebody really wonderful, talking really wonderfully about you, and kind of like appreciating you and like, respecting you and all the things. It just doesn't work like that, because you have to start doing the inner work, the thought process, the affirmation, the seeing yourself as if you're already on the other side, already having it, already being it, and having the balls to imagine, the ovaries to know that's the person I want to be, and I am sticking to it. That's persistent. That's the grit. That's the hard work part, because keeping focus on the wanted is the hardest work that, a human mind can actually conceive and, commit to. That's the hardest work, right? So it's not to take it lightly, but it's really true, because it's like, when people tell me like, how should I be making my decisions about my, let's say, next 5 years or 10 years, right? Like, what is that? I'm like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years, right? And they say, I want to be the CEO of this mega, whatever, like corporation. Great. Like, whatever. Like, so, but first let's check if that's even, something that resonates with you, right? But then always be like, reverse engineering from that goal. So what needs to happen in the next, 2 years, right? In the next 5 years for that to happen, for that to take place? What are all the steps? What are all the levels? What are all the actions you need to be taking today? What is the work? Whether it's mindset work, which is always going to be, right? What is the actual work at the company? What is the actual, how you show up, how you present yourself, how you show up with your ambition? who you're talking to, right? And are you buying into, let's say, the company culture of like, well, we only hire the people that we know, like, or we have some family connections to, or whatever the story is of the company, right? And are you able to kind of like surpass, recreate, rewrite a new story for yourself and override let's say, for example, company's paradigm, and be brave and be bold and be progressive and keep persisting and be achieving, that CEO role in your way. Not, how it was done for like, 50 years in that sense, right? That's progressive, that's innovative, that's like fresh, that's like genius mindset, right? And so in that sense, it's always going to be like, if you want to become better, right, and get paid more, then it's for sure not about working more and getting like doing all the things that everybody's doing and being super busy and not taking time for working on your mindset and working on your vision and being really strategic about your quantum leap, if you will, right? And having that reverse engineer so clear that every year what is to happen, what is to take place, what type of event is to occur in that span of like 12 months and then even 90 days, right? Because we like mentally can super grasp the 90 days period. And that's why some of my best work has happened in the 90 days period, because it's something that the mind can grasp and something that you can say, hey, let's focus on this goal for 90 days and results come in, right? It's just what it is. That's just kind of like science. So when we're trying to make decisions from where we're at and be like, well, I don't necessarily like this situation where I'm at, but I want to be making decisions from this situation, we're just adding to the problem, right? Because the solution for the problem, solution for the challenge, solution for the, whatever the challenge is, whatever it needs to, grow into, is going to be in a different place, right? So basically it's, what Einstein said, like you cannot be solving, a problem with the same mind that created it, right? You need a different mindset, you need a different attitude, you need a different angle or perspective, as we put it, right? Because with that being said, you can all of a sudden shift into this new perspective, new mindset, new attitude, and be demanding and talking and communicating and getting in touch with like completely different type of people or co-creators or partners or what have you, right? So it's really about being flexible and not allowing that kind of like grip on whatever it is that you're kind of like think that you need, whether it's validation from other people or people need to respect me or people should not be like talking badly about me, whatever that is, kind of like attachment. It's kind of like, well, people are going to talk about you anyhow, so they might as well have something to talk about. So not to be worried about that, right? Which is something that I was experiencing and testing for the last couple of weeks, right? But it's kind of like where we have this need sometimes, to be validated or to be like, seen more like, more of whatever. We think that we need to be like the image of this perfection or, somebody, that you're really not. So it's kind of like, hey, Vani. So it's kind of like giving yourself a break and allowing yourself to stay true to who you are right now, but also to 100% align with like, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to take, with you when you go there? And, what is the experience there, right? So what is the experience there going to be like, right? Because basically what we can control is our own ecosystem, our own environment, our own mindset, our own attitude. That's the only thing. But with that, we can 100% influence things that are happening, taking place around ourselves. And if that's not possible, then we have the other option, which is you can always change the perception that you have on the things, on the events, on the circumstances. So always be asking yourself, whatever the circumstances is occurring, what is my perspective on it? And is that perspective, is that belief, is that thought, is that judgment of that circumstance, because we have plenty of circumstances, in this lifetime, you know, it's a daily thing and it's like gazillion times every day, right? But like, what is your perspective? How are you allowing yourself to feel about it? How are you reacting to it, right? Are you spending tons of energy about overreacting, negatively reacting, being all over the place, allowing yourself to be like, oh my God, like, you know, this is the worst thing ever, and really wasting your energy into that? Or are you like, that's an interesting like circumstance, you know, so how could I go and let it go and not worry about it at all, right? Because it's not relevant for what I'm doing and where I'm going, right? Because when you have your end goal in your mind and you're reverse engineering from there, you will not be bothered by the gossip, the daily talks, the judgment of the people who have small minds, because you're focused, you are in the zone, you are on your way, and you are aligning and connecting with people who are the same trajectory, right? So that's all that matters, and that's all that matters all day long, right? I was having a wonderful conversation with Pauline yesterday, and she's amazing. I was like, of course you are in my world because you are amazing, right? She has her struggles, as we all do, because it's a part of the story that's kind of like helping us grow, that's kind of like helping us to expand, that's kind of like helping us to see, hey, you are so much more than just the story, right? So it needs to be like letting go and allowing yourself to have a different view right now. So telling yourself sometimes, you know, I'm allowed to have a different view, I'm allowed to have a different opinion than 98% of the world. You're allowed to have your own perception. You're allowed to have your own crazy, quirky, whatever it is, view of the world, because that's what makes you genius. That's what makes you unique. That's what makes you you. And that's where you're the most powerful, right? And that's, I don't care what, you know, like, I don't even care like what your niche or business or like it's irrelevant. What is relevant is bringing your purpose, bringing your genius to the table. That's the only thing that we care about. I don't care about color or cultural status or how much you're having in a bank or not, or how much you had or not, or like, those are all superficial stuff. Like, that's all superficial because we're here and we feed off when we're creating and co-creating and kind of like creating those like connections when we can actually feel, you know, safe and inspired at the same time, and kind of like being invited into that creation mode and being so excited about that, because that's by default, it's what feeds that, and that's by default what attracts other amazing humans into that, right? Because it's, again, it's a matter of perspective. Whether you see somebody as doing you good or doing you harm, it's always going to be a perspective, right? And so we always have those choices and decisions, and, you know, like, how do I want to see the situation, right? So that it's serving me, so that I'm benefiting from it, so that it's helping me, so that it's, you know, supporting me. How do I want to translate whatever is happening, whatever is going on, so that I can actually feel supported and nurtured and safe to receive what is mine to receive? And ladies, we need to stop talking about small peanut money. We need to start talking about real businesses and real incomes, right? I don't want anybody to be in the lack story, you know, not like, we've been past that, right? We've been spending years and years and years in like working on that, changing the paradigms and working on the, you know, how, like, am I worthy of this? Am I worthy of that? It's like, it's total conditioning, and it's a total lie, and it's a story. And we can, you know, keep living that story, and it's not benefiting anybody. Nobody's benefiting if I have less. Everybody's benefiting when I have more than I can handle, than I can, right? Like, abundance, overabundance, like abundance creation, like, it just spills. Like, everybody in my community is benefiting when I have shit tons of money. It's just, it is, because that's the person that I am. That's the person that, like, when I go shopping, I shop with a happy face, with a grateful heart, right? When I buy clothes for my daughter, I do that with gratitude, right? So everybody is benefiting when I'm donating, when I'm helping others, when I'm supporting people pro bono, like whatever it is. Everybody benefits when your well is full, when you're replenished, when you can actually give and support and, be there for others. Everybody is benefiting. And the responsibility part of that is you and me, we're actually capable of creating so much more. It hurts my, soul sometimes when I see how in the struggle story people are and how they think that that's what it is. That's what it's a destiny. That's what it's meant for them. Like that's what it's in the cards. It's like, no, there's no such thing as in we are co-creating that with your beliefs, right? And so this is kind of like when you're like, well, but this is just kind of like my story has been like that's just who I've been for the last, I don't care how many years. It's like, then it's a perfect time to change that. And that perfect time starts today. And it's going to go through some really uncomfortable action and mindset work, which is more joyful. But action is actually sometimes really uncomfortable because it means you're showing up on, let's say, a sales call or whatever it is, and you're claiming to be something that I know you have it in you, you're not so sure, right? The client wants it because they actually need that, service that you're providing. So it's really up to you, like to bridge that with faith, with believing in the future self, with having that bridge of like working on that so many times, rewriting it in your journal, talking to your coach about that, creating that story, that link, basically, it's kind of like a link. So that you're like, hey, this actually is not that unfamiliar anymore. This actually totally makes sense. I'm not lying. I'm just creating a new bridge. I'm creating a new level. I'm creating a new upgrade, right? Because upgrade is always going to be uncomfortable. Like shit sometimes, right? I remember my first really, really high ticket mentor, and she was like, always invest. Because I was always like, shit, man, it's a ton, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, right? For 90 days of work with her. She was not forceful. She was not anything, but she was just like, this is what we're going to do, right? And, you should always be investing at the level where you see yourself, right? And sometimes that really kind of like pulled my head out of my ego because I was always like so scared. But it's like, this is just how we were raised, to some degree, to not believe in ourselves, to not have the confidence, to not have the luxury, to test and to invest and to talk about money and to talk about big bucks, right? And to talk about, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 figures, right? Like whatever that is for you, right? But it is here. It is available for everybody. And so from now on, because, those of you who've been following me, we've had this amazing event, right? And we were talking to, or, he was talking to us, besides my coach, who's now at 8 figures, she was guest hosting Gary Vaynerchuk, and I've been following Gary for, years, right? Everybody thought Gary was a weirdo, the crazy kind of like, I think he's from Russia or something, so close to us, sort of, right? But it's like, nobody thought anything special out of him, right? Like, and if it wasn't for basically the mentoring he received at home and all the hard work ethic and, all the support that I'm sure he's getting from his Primo family, but like also his family, like that, I don't think that type of like confidence and empathy would be, would be possible, would be doable, of course, right? And he's totally perceptive, right? And he's very giving, right? And so, but now, 10 years later, everybody's praising him. Everybody wants him on their television, on their podcast, on their whatever, because he's made a real, effort to see himself and to envision himself in that sense of like, this is where I want to go. This is who I want to be, right? And not creating from the, this is what I'm creating so I can sell it. It's not about that. For him, it's all about the people actually, right? And all about, relationships and building the companies. I think he has like 9 of them, right? So it's like, I can relate to that, right? Because I would always put my client's need in front of, whatever the financial story is happening, right? Because that's where they're going to be burned, into this new reality for themselves. And they need to have somebody that believes in them, right? And it takes that belief in the belief itself, and knowing how belief actually works, and that it can be changed, and that mindset, thank God, and thoughts and those like repetitive thoughts can be changed, right? And also at the same time that you have the choice of not believing in that, right? So you don't buy into it, so you don't go with it, so you don't even like, you don't unpack your bags in some type of like lack believing. You just don't, agree, and you don't do that, because it's not the standard of your future vision, and you're working and you cherish and you created like neural connection to this future vision of yourself through rewriting that story, through journaling your like appreciation towards that element and towards who you're becoming, right? And believing in that, and working on that, and reading towards that, and talking and listening to people, hanging out with people who are already there, so you can actually, it becomes familiar, right? So I remember the first time when I was selling my 30K package, $30,000 was like, it was so unreal for me to say, like on the sales call. I was like, who am I, right? And I was crying, and I was having conversation with myself in the I think it was in the in front of the mirror, and I was like trying to like reprogram myself and my own self belief, or lack of, basically, right? So then my coach said, just go for like, say it like it's like a 300,000, right? And that kind of like made it less extraordinary, because the mind is always really freaking out when something new is taking place in all areas of our lives, right? So it's kind of like, okay, so when I started saying that working with me for like 90 days was like 300,000, all of a sudden, 30K didn't sound so horrible, right? So I kind of like tricked myself, right? And this is how you can trick yourself. Hey, Dev. Hey, sweetie. So, it's kind of like knowing the mind and playing with it, because it's kind of like a small kid, basically. It's kind of like a 4-year-old, right? You can always trick them into something that it's way better for them, right? And kind of like, so they can start ignoring like the sweet candy or whatever it is they want, Hey, Dev, how are you doing? So, it's kind of like you learn how to manipulate in a positive way. And that's the same way how we manipulate our own mind. Like it's in that positive intention, right? Of, let me, like, my reward is there. I am, becoming that, and building that bridge is like the daily work, right? This is where we build the trust. This is where we build the faith. This is where we take the action steps, for sure, every day, right? Uncomfortable ones, So, so that we can actually have the experiences, and then, before you know it, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm experiencing a 6-figure leap, or oh my God, I'm at 7 figures, like, or whatever. Yes. Thank you, sweetie. Hey, Deb. So, and it's kind of like, or oh my God, I'm having this lover and I'm having like 10 orgasms a day, right? And it's like you're building that bridge for yourself with the, like, I don't want, this is a reality where I'm at, and it's kind of like it became too small. It became like, it's suffocating me a little bit. Like, I'm not really sure this is something that I want. It's old, it's whatever, it's old story, period. And we are basically created so that we can create new stories every day. If people would take that, can you imagine, what type of a world we would be living in if everybody would be co-creating from their best intention and highest connection every morning? I mean, that would be the world that I would want to live in, right? And it wouldn't matter, bank account or castle or a Ferrari or whatever it is. You would just you would have that ability to create or borrow or be with or whatever it is, right? That's the beauty. And that's the power that we have. And that's also, it comes with responsibility of keeping the focus on the wanted, making decisions from the wanted. And it's scary. And then helping yourself with like small steps every day, building that bridge toward the wanted. This is what I want. This is who I want to be. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want to hire my team. This is, who I want to be working with. And this is the person that I want to be spending some of my time with, some of my life with, right? you have to see that if you want to live that. You have to believe that. You have to create that neuro-linguistic pattern in your brain so that you can be so confident in walking that path and creating that new reality and be open to something better even than that. Does this make sense? Oh, I love, like, everybody has been joining me. Awesome. So let me have some water. I didn't have time to prepare my matcha tea. It's actually a weird mix of matcha with some coconut something, like coconut milk. So it doesn't taste as good as the real matcha, the proper Japanese matcha, which I was a big fan of, and you know, also how we used to prepare that. So there you go. I need to get my hands on some real good matcha tea. But that's also the thing. It's like, matcha is so premium. For example, I used to work in like a proper tea shop, and we had teas from all over the world, and the difference between something that, you know, you go and buy in a regular store, even organic, whatever, and the difference between tasting something, they call it like premium tea, or, you know, something that has been even like buried under the ground and matured, like, you know, kind of like a whiskey but with a different process. And so, you know, they would even have, like, the Chinese have this, like, you know, it's like, I don't know, 50-year-old tea, and it just looks amazing. It looks like a brick of tea. And so people who have that, because we all love this like premium and kind of like unique and exquisite type of like experiences, because this is what, you know, makes life so delicious, right? And it makes it so wow, and it makes it so like your heart is kind of like wow, like the beauties, right? And you become like grateful, and it's like the smallest things, right? But matcha was like super expensive, right? And I used to drink it every day because it has so many benefits to it, right? It's so nutritious, and it has all types of like vitamins and stuff, or minerals or something like that, right? So that was the experience that I really, really cherished. And we were only allowed to have like, you know, 1 cup, you know, a day, because it's also very like, it's kind of like it gives you energy boost. So people love the value that they receive when they pay whatever premium. We talked about the money before, right? Because I'm so over like stories, right? And people thinking and believing that, you know, this is where I'm at and this is where I should stay, because just to keep it safe, and not being curious. Like, right? Curiosity is one of the things that it's not going to kill you, but it's for sure going to move you, you know, way beyond of what you think is kind of like, you know, safe and sound and square and whatever that is. Yeah. Pauline, what the Primo, what is that? Can you explain? So Dev is saying, yes, I love this and it makes sense, and the way you share it, there's a lot of ease in it. Yes, right? Because it's never going to be forceful, right? Like it cannot be forceful, because vision and kind of like how we ease into that, it's actually really, really important, especially if you're the type of person like me who doesn't like orders, who doesn't like to just, you know, have things done just because, you know, somebody said so. So there's that rebel side where it's kind of like you're questioning everything, and you're like, you know, who is this benefiting, right? Like, you know, how am I serving others with this, right? And you always have that, you know, in front of your mind, right? Yes, the high quality that life offers is available to everybody, right? And it's kind of like, I was having a friend over this weekend, and he was like, oh, so you all of your kitchen, everything is just organic? And I'm like, pretty much so, yes. But that's been my way of keeping myself and my family healthy over the last, I don't know, 15 years, right? And so we don't do medicine, and we don't go to the doctors necessarily. We don't do a lot of things that, you know, any regular type of family does. But I do invest in organic food and organic supplements and organic coffee, of course, and organic tea and organic bread and like all the things, right? So because it's a big part of who I am, and so that's how, like, that's the value system that I hold, right? And so that's the belief that I have, that, you know, if I provide with good high quality food, and that's how, you know, I treat myself and my child and, you know, whoever is in my environment, right? Yes. Sure. Good luck with your video, Dev. Yeah. So it's kind of like, that's my way of saying, you know, this is how this is my medicine. This is our daily medicine, and I value that very, very highly, right? And so because the vibration in the food measured, you know, like organic, or you know, even farmers organic, and you know, kind of like with that kind of like it's immediate kind of like, you know, shopping experience, or you know, if you have a farmer that you can go to, that food actually has some, you know, vibration to it, you know, compared to, let's say, you know, food that people buy in the regular store. So logic, you know, but then also connected to the value of where I want to be when I'm 80. I want to be vital, I want to be healthy, I want to be sexually active, I want to be fit, I want to have a beautiful body, I want to have an amazing partner, like, right? So it's all the things, right? And so it ties to my vision of myself and of my child as well, and you know, family members, right? When I think about that, it's always a long-term decision, and you know, then I have to make all the daily steps, right? So that's what I do, and that's what I've been doing. So that's the consistency. So check your consistencies, and kind of like, you know, if you're, whatever it is that you're doing, is it aligned with, you know, who you want to be, where you want to be, and check that, right? And start building that bridge today, because it takes that, you know, courageousness and kind of like decisiveness, and kind of like, okay, you know, enough of that, enough of the old story, enough of the like what was going on, you know, so far, and what was happening right now. You know, I want to be creating this new reality, and you start focusing on that like 150%. You don't even talk to anybody who's like has this like old reality, or you know, who's like, I don't know, you know, I'm not sure, like, you know, how is this, like, you just don't. It's a waste of energy, right? Until you are already in your new reality, then you can share it, then you can teach it, then you can coach it, then you can, you know, be all about it in that sense, right? So, and you can teach the process, okay? Because the process is actually really, really the same at any level. Any leap is kind of like the same process, right? So that's why, you know, I'm not at 7 figures. I can be talking about that because I've been studying and researching and coaching and doing the systems that, you know, 8-figure owners, you know, do. And so I've been intentionally investing my time, money, energy into that for the last 3 years. So it's kind of like, I know the process to there, but then again, it's tailored and it's very specific to each person, and you know, how they want to be organizing and creating that business and life. So again, it's very premium in that sense that it's very tailored, right? So yeah, so I'm not scared anymore of the 30K packages where we've done 30K, 60K. We have 100K, you know, per year type of packages as well. You know, sometimes if the client is right. So it's really all about relationship. Yeah. So I hope this was very beneficial, right, for you. And if you have any questions on the topic, or you know, the circumstances where you're at, and how to move from there, you know, hop on a call with me. Everybody who's in the group has 30 minutes of free call. You know, it's a strategy call of how you can go to, you know, let's say 6-figure leaps, if that's, you know, your interest. So, you know, we can talk about that, or, you know, whatever is preventing you right now, you know, for kind of like leaping or allowing yourself to be there. I can guarantee you that it's a very high value call. So Pauline and, you know, everybody else who's experienced that can definitely vouch for that. So if I were you, I would do that. I would book that call ACAP, and you know, be kind of like start thinking about where do you want to be, who do you want to be, and how you can start building that bridge towards that today. And with that being said, I want to thank you everybody for joining me and for participating. And yes, Dev, if you have any questions or whatever it is, just, you know, drop in the comments. I'm going to come back later in today or tomorrow and answer that as always. Okay, I love you all, and have a wonderful and powerful day. Bye.